Marcus Rivera stood in the conference room of Rivera and Sons Construction, watching his father hand over the official company documents to his older brother Antonio. The mahogany table gleamed under the fluorescent lights, reflecting faces that had made this decision without him. Faces that belonged to the family business he'd grown up believing would one day be his. "Congratulations, Antonio," their father, Eduardo Rivera, said with satisfaction. "Rivera and Sons is now officially under your leadership. 25 years I've built this company, and I know it's in good hands." Marcus felt his stomach drop as the reality hit him. At 28, he had spent the last 6 years working for the family construction company, learning every aspect of the business, from foundation pouring to project management. He had an MBA in business administration and had consistently brought in the company's largest contracts. But as he sat there, watching his brother receive the keys to everything their father had built, one thing became crystal clear. Rivera and Sons would never include him as more than an employee. "What about Marcus?" asked his sister Sophia, the only family member who seemed to notice his stunned silence. "He's been working harder than anyone to help grow the company." Eduardo's expression hardened. "Marcus has good ideas, but he doesn't understand the construction business like Antonio does. This is a family business that's been built on traditional values and proven methods. Antonio has been in construction since he was 16. Marcus spent 4 years in college, learning theories that don't work in the real world." Antonio, settling into the chair at the head of the table that had belonged to their father, added his own perspective. "Marcus is smart, don't get me wrong, but he's always pushing for changes that sound good on paper but would cost us money and customers. Smart contracts, digital project management, sustainable building materials. That's not how we do business in construction." Marcus had heard these arguments before, but this time they carried the weight of finality. His ideas about modernizing their operations, implementing new technologies, and pursuing green building certifications had been consistently dismissed as impractical idealism. "Besides," their mother Carmen added gently, "Marcus is young. He can learn the business under Antonio's guidance. There's no rush." The meeting continued around him as they discussed transition plans, but Marcus barely heard the details. His mind was racing with the realization that no matter how hard he worked or how much value he added to the company, he would always be seen as the younger brother with impractical ideas. When the meeting ended, Marcus remained seated as his family filed out, chatting excitedly about the future of Rivera and Sons. Sophia lingered by the door, giving him a sympathetic look. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I thought Dad would at least make you a partner." Marcus stood up slowly, straightening his tie and gathering the proposal documents he had prepared for this meeting. Detailed plans for expanding into commercial green building projects that he now realized would never be implemented. "Don't worry about it, Sophia. This just clarifies things for me." That evening, Marcus sat in his apartment, reviewing the business plan he had developed over the past year. The document outlined his vision for a construction company that could compete in the modern market. A firm that embraced technology, prioritized sustainability, and offered clients innovative solutions rather than just traditional building methods. He had originally intended to propose these ideas as the foundation for Rivera and Sons' next phase of growth. Now he realized they would become the foundation for something entirely different. Mateus Acause. Marcus opened his laptop and began typing his resignation letter. 3 weeks later, Marcus walked into the offices of Rivera and Sons for the last time as an employee. His resignation had caused a minor uproar in the family, with his parents alternating between disappointment and anger, and Antonio expressing confusion about why he would leave a secure position to pursue uncertain opportunities. "You're making a mistake, Mijo," his father had said during one of several heated conversations. "Starting a business is risky, especially in construction. You'll lose everything and come back here within a year, asking for your job back. And if you're thinking about starting a competing company," Antonio had warned, "remember that we have all the client relationships in this market. You'd be starting from nothing." But Marcus had spent the previous weeks laying groundwork that his family knew nothing about. His MBA program had connected him with a network of young professionals who shared his vision for modernizing traditional industries. His thesis advisor, Dr. Jennifer Walsh, had introduced him to venture capital firms that specialized in funding innovative construction technologies. Most importantly, Marcus had been quietly building relationships with clients who had expressed frustration with Rivera and Sons' resistance to modern building practices. His first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Patricia Chen, the facilities manager for a large technology company that Rivera and Sons had worked with the previous year. Patricia had approached Marcus directly after a project completion meeting, expressing interest in his ideas about smart building integration. "Your family's company does solid work," she had told him, "but they're not equipped for what we need going forward. We're looking for a construction partner who understands that buildings need to be technology platforms, not just structures." That conversation had led to others, and Marcus discovered a significant gap in the local construction market. Companies were increasingly interested in sustainable building practices, integrated technology systems, and innovative design solutions. But most traditional contractors couldn't deliver these services effectively. On his last day at Rivera and Sons, Marcus cleaned out his office while mentally reviewing his business plan for what would become Mr. Construction Solutions. He had secured initial funding from 2 investors, lined up partnerships with 3 technology vendors, and received preliminary interest from 5 potential clients. His father appeared in the doorway as Marcus was packing his final box. "You know, it's not too late to change your mind," Eduardo said, his voice mixing concern with disappointment. "Running a business is harder than you think. Competition is brutal, and you don't have the relationships we've spent decades building." Marcus looked at his father, feeling a mixture of love and frustration. "Dad, I appreciate everything you taught me about construction and business. But I also learned that sometimes you have to build something new instead of just maintaining what already exists. And you think you can compete with us? With Rivera and Sons?" Marcus picked up his box and headed toward the door. "I'm not trying to compete with Rivera and Sons, Dad. I'm trying to build something that serves customers you're not interested in serving." 6 months later, Mr. Construction Solutions completed its first major project, a 40,000 square foot office building for a software development company that featured integrated IoT systems, advanced environmental controls, and LEED Platinum certification. The building showcased everything Marcus had envisioned: construction that was both functional and technologically sophisticated. The project attracted attention from industry publications and potential clients who were impressed by the innovative approach to commercial construction. Marcus found himself fielding inquiries from companies that had never considered Rivera and Sons because they needed capabilities that traditional contractors couldn't provide. But the real validation came when he received a call from James Morrison, the CEO of Morrison Industries, a manufacturing company that Rivera and Sons had been trying to win as a client for over a year. "Marcus, I've been following your work and I'm impressed," Morrison said during their meeting. "We need to build a new production facility that incorporates advanced automation systems and meets strict environmental standards. Your brother's company has been pitching us traditional approaches that don't address our real needs." The Morrison Industries project became Mr. Construction Solutions' second major contract, worth $3.2 million and featuring innovative manufacturing integration that would serve as a showcase for the company's capabilities. As Marcus's company grew, he implemented the management and technology systems he had originally proposed for Rivera and Sons. Digital project management tools provided clients with real-time updates on construction progress. Sustainable building practices reduced both environmental impact and long-term operating costs. Smart building integration created facilities that were more efficient and user-friendly than traditional construction could deliver. The results spoke for themselves. Within 18 months, Mr. Construction Solutions had completed 8 major projects, employed 15 full-time staff members, and generated revenue that approached Rivera and Sons' annual total. But Marcus was careful not to compete directly with his family's business. Rivera and Sons focused on residential construction and traditional commercial projects, while Mr. Construction Solutions specialized in technology-integrated buildings and sustainable commercial construction. The market was large enough for both companies to succeed, until circumstances forced a direct comparison. The opportunity came when the city announced a competitive bidding process for a new municipal complex that would serve as a model for sustainable government buildings. The project included administrative offices, a public meeting space, and technology infrastructure that would support digital government services. Marcus knew that Rivera and Sons would bid on the project. It was exactly the kind of high-profile municipal work that his father and brother prized. But he also knew that the project requirements favored companies with experience in sustainable construction and technology integration. Against his better judgment about family dynamics, Marcus decided to submit a bid. The bidding process took 3 months and included detailed proposals, client references, and presentations to the city council. Marcus's proposal emphasized energy efficiency, technology integration, and long-term cost savings through sustainable design. Rivera and Sons' proposal focused on traditional construction methods, proven reliability, and their track record with local projects. When the city announced its decision, Mr. Construction Solutions had won the contract with a bid that was both lower cost and higher value than Rivera and Sons' proposal. The family reaction was immediate and intense. "You deliberately undermined us," Antonio accused during a confrontational phone call. "We've been working in this city for 25 years, and you swooped in with some flashy presentation to steal a project that should have been ours." Their father was more hurt than angry. "Marcus, I thought you said you weren't trying to compete with us. This project was perfect for Rivera and Sons, and you knew we were bidding on it." Marcus tried to explain that his bid had focused on capabilities that Rivera and Sons couldn't provide, but his family saw only betrayal and unfair competition. The conversation ended with Antonio hanging up and their father expressing disappointment that cut deeper than any professional criticism. Sophia called later that evening to provide her perspective. "Marcus, I understand why you bid on the project, and honestly, your proposal was clearly better. But you have to know this feels like a direct attack to Dad and Antonio." "Sophia, I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but if they're going to compete for the same projects I'm bidding on, I can't just step aside because we're family." "I know, but they're feeling like you're using everything you learned working for them to build a company that's making them look outdated." The municipal complex project became a showcase for everything Marcus had envisioned for modern construction. The building featured solar panels, advanced HVAC systems, integrated technology infrastructure, and sustainable materials that reduced both environmental impact and operating costs. When completed, it exceeded energy efficiency targets and became a model that other municipalities studied for their own projects. The project's success attracted national attention to Mr. Construction Solutions, leading to inquiries from clients across the region who wanted similar innovative construction services. Marcus found himself managing a company that was growing faster than he had originally projected. But the success also widened the gap between his business and his family. Rivera and Sons continued operating successfully in their traditional markets. But the contrast between the two companies became increasingly apparent to clients and industry observers. The situation reached a turning point when Marcus received an unexpected call from Patricia Chen, who had since moved to a position with a large real estate development firm. "Marcus, we're planning a major mixed-use development project, and I'd like Mr. Construction Solutions to handle the commercial building components. But I wanted to give you a heads up. We also need residential contractors for the housing portion, and we were thinking about Rivera and Sons." The proposed development would be the largest project either company had ever worked on, with commercial construction valued at $12 million and residential construction worth approximately $8 million. Patricia was offering both companies the opportunity to work on different aspects of the same development. Marcus realized this could either be an opportunity to demonstrate that both companies could succeed in their respective specialties, or a situation that would create even more family tension if one company's work overshadowed the others. He decided to call his father directly. "Dad, I wanted to talk to you about a development project that might interest Rivera and Sons," Marcus began, explaining Patricia's proposal without mentioning his own involvement. Eduardo's response was cautious. "It sounds like a good opportunity. What's the catch?" "No catch. But Mr. Construction Solutions has been asked to handle the commercial buildings, while Rivera and Sons would handle the residential construction. We'd be working on the same development." The silence on the other end of the phone stretched long enough that Marcus wondered if the call had been disconnected. "You're saying you want us to work together?" Eduardo finally asked. "I'm saying there's an opportunity for both companies to do what they do best on a project that's big enough for everyone to succeed." The conversation that followed was cautious but civil, the first productive discussion Marcus had had with his father since leaving Rivera and Sons. They agreed to submit separate bids for their respective portions of the development, with the understanding that the client wanted both companies to be involved. 2 months later, both Rivera and Sons and Mr. Construction Solutions were awarded contracts for the Westfield Commons development. The project would take 18 months to complete and would be the largest undertaking for both companies. Working on the same development required coordination between the two firms, which led to the first professional interactions Marcus had had with his father and brothers since starting his own company. The conversations were initially formal and strictly business-focused, but gradually became more collaborative as both teams recognized the benefits of coordination. Antonio, observing the innovative construction techniques that Mr. Construction Solutions was implementing on the commercial buildings, began asking technical questions about sustainable building practices and technology integration. "I have to admit," he said during one coordination meeting, "some of these green building techniques you're using actually save money in the long run. Maybe we should look into incorporating some of them in our residential projects." Eduardo was more reserved in his observations, but Marcus noticed his father studying the project management software and digital coordination tools that Mr. Construction Solutions used to track progress and communicate with clients. The Westfield Commons project was completed on schedule and within budget, with both companies receiving praise for their respective contributions. The residential buildings that Rivera and Sons constructed were solid, attractive, and well-built according to traditional standards. The commercial buildings that Mr. Construction Solutions delivered featured innovative design, advanced technology integration, and energy efficiency that exceeded the client's expectations. But the most significant outcome was the recognition that both companies had succeeded by focusing on their strengths, rather than trying to compete directly with each other. 6 months after the Westfield Commons completion, Marcus received another unexpected call from his father. "Marcus, I've been thinking about something. Rivera and Sons has been getting inquiries from clients who want some of the sustainable building features you've been implementing. We're not equipped to handle that kind of work, but we don't want to turn away good customers." Marcus listened carefully, sensing that his father was approaching something important. "I was wondering if you might be interested in some kind of partnership arrangement. Not a merger. Both companies would remain independent. But maybe we could refer clients to each other when projects match our respective capabilities." The proposal surprised Marcus, but it also made business sense. Rivera and Sons had established relationships with residential clients and traditional commercial customers, while Mr. Construction Solutions specialized in innovative commercial projects and sustainable building practices. A referral partnership could benefit both companies without requiring either to compromise their distinct identities. "I'd be interested in exploring that," Marcus replied carefully. "What did you have in mind?" The partnership arrangement that developed over the following months was simple, but effective. Rivera and Sons would refer clients who needed sustainable building features or technology integration to Mr. Construction Solutions. Mr. Construction Solutions would refer clients who needed traditional residential construction or straightforward commercial projects to Rivera and Sons. Both companies also agreed to collaborate on projects that required both traditional construction expertise and innovative building techniques, similar to the Westfield Commons development. The partnership proved beneficial for both firms. Rivera and Sons was able to offer clients comprehensive construction services without having to develop capabilities they weren't equipped to handle. Mr. Construction Solutions gained access to established client relationships and could focus on the specialized services where they had competitive advantages. More importantly, the professional partnership began to repair the family relationships that had been strained by Marcus's departure from Rivera and Sons, and the competitive tensions that followed. 2 years after leaving Rivera and Sons, Marcus was invited to the company's annual holiday party for the first time since starting his own business. The invitation came from Sofia, but he knew his parents and Antonio had agreed to it. Standing in the same conference room where he had watched Antonio receive control of Rivera and Sons, Marcus reflected on how much had changed. Mr. Construction Solutions now employed 23 people and had annual revenue that exceeded Rivera and Sons' totals. But more importantly, both companies were thriving by serving different market segments rather than competing directly. "You know," Antonio said, approaching Marcus with a beer and a somewhat awkward smile, "I owe you an apology. When you left to start your own company, I thought you were just being stubborn and impractical. But watching what you've built, I have to admit you were right about there being opportunities we weren't pursuing." Marcus accepted the beer and the apology. Antonio, you were right too. Rivera and Sons has something valuable. Relationships and expertise that take decades to build. I was never trying to prove that was wrong. Their father joined the conversation, looking older than Marcus remembered, but more relaxed than he had seemed in years. Marcus, I also owe you an apology. When you wanted to implement new technologies and sustainable practices, I thought you were trying to fix something that wasn't broken. But watching your company succeed has shown me that there were opportunities we were missing. Eduardo paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I'm proud of what you've built. And I'm proud that you found a way to do it without destroying what we had built too. The conversation was interrupted by Patricia Chen, who had been invited to the party as a major client of both companies. It's good to see the Rivera family together again, she said, joining their group. You know, the partnership between your companies has become a model for how construction firms can collaborate rather than just compete. Other cities are asking us to recommend similar arrangements for their development projects. Marcus looked around the room at his family, his employees, and the clients who had supported both companies' growth. The young man who had been blocked from the family business had built something that not only succeeded on its own terms, but it also helped his family's business grow in new directions. You know what the best part is? Sophia said, appearing at Marcus's elbow with her own drink. Dad finally admits that your college education was worth something. The laughter that followed was genuine and warm, free of the tension that had characterized family gatherings for the previous 2 years. As the evening continued, Marcus found himself in conversations with Rivera and Sons employees who asked questions about sustainable building practices and project management technologies. Several mentioned that they were considering pursuing additional training in green building techniques. Antonio pulled him aside later in the evening. Marcus, I have a proposition for you. Rivera and Sons is getting more requests for sustainable residential construction, but we don't have the expertise to handle it properly. Would you be interested in developing a joint training program for our crews? The proposition led to discussions about other potential collaborations, shared equipment purchases, joint bidding on large projects, and combined marketing efforts that highlighted both companies' capabilities. By the end of the evening, Marcus realized that leaving Rivera and Sons to start his own company had accomplished something he never could have achieved by staying. It had forced both businesses to evolve and had ultimately created opportunities for collaboration that benefited everyone involved. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same conference room where his journey had begun, but this time he was there as an equal partner in presenting a joint proposal for the largest construction project in the city's history. Rivera and Sons and Mr. Construction Solutions had been selected to collaborate on a $25 million mixed-use development that would showcase both traditional construction excellence and innovative sustainable building practices. This is what I originally envisioned, Marcus told the assembled family as they reviewed the project plans. Not one company trying to do everything, but both companies doing what they do best and working together when it benefits the client. Eduardo nodded approvingly. It took you leaving for us to understand that there was room for both approaches in this business. The young man, who had been told he didn't understand the construction business, was now leading the industry in sustainable building practices while helping his family's traditional construction company expand into new markets. Mr. Construction Solutions had not only outsold Rivera and Sons in total revenue, but had created a collaborative model that made both companies more successful than either could have been alone. As Marcus looked around the conference room at his family, his business partners, and the plans for their joint project, he realized that sometimes the best way to honor a family legacy is to build something new alongside it rather than trying to change it from within. The rejection that had driven him to start his own company had ultimately led to success that exceeded anything he could have achieved by staying in the family business. And more importantly, it had proven that there was room in the market, and in the family, for both tradition and innovation to thrive together. The joint project that would define both companies' futures began with a challenge that neither Rivera and Sons nor Mr. Construction Solutions had anticipated. The Riverside Innovation District was designed to be a model for sustainable urban development, featuring residential units, commercial spaces, office buildings, and public areas that would demonstrate the future of environmentally conscious construction. But 3 months into the project, Marcus received a call that would test everything he had built. "Marcus, we have a problem," said Jennifer Walsh, the project's lead architect. "The city council is facing pressure from Hartwell Construction Group. They're claiming that the project should have gone through a more competitive bidding process, and they're threatening legal action." Hartwell Construction was the largest construction firm in the region, a corporate giant that had been systematically acquiring smaller construction companies to dominate the market. Their complaint wasn't just about the Riverside project. It was a direct challenge to the collaborative model that Marcus and his family had developed. "What exactly are they claiming?" Marcus asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "They're arguing that the partnership between Rivera and Sons and Mr. Construction Solutions constitutes anti-competitive behavior, and that the city should have accepted bids from larger, more established firms capable of handling the entire project independently." Marcus understood immediately that this was about more than one project. Hartwell saw the success of the Rivera family partnership as a threat to their strategy of consolidating the regional construction market. If smaller firms could collaborate effectively, it undermined Hartwell's argument that only large corporations could handle complex projects. The legal challenge forced Marcus to confront questions about the future of his business that he hadn't anticipated. Over the past 3 years, Mr. Construction Solutions had grown from a startup to a mid-sized firm with annual revenue of $18 million. But Hartwell Construction operated at a completely different scale, with annual revenue exceeding $200 million and the resources to pursue extended legal battles. "They're trying to eliminate competition by making it too expensive for smaller firms to bid on major projects," Antonio observed during an emergency family meeting. "If they succeed in breaking up our partnership, they'll have a much easier time dominating the market." Eduardo, who had spent 40 years building Rivera and Sons, was particularly angry about the challenge. "This isn't about fair competition. It's about a big corporation trying to drive out family businesses that have been serving this community for decades." But Marcus saw an opportunity in the crisis that his family hadn't considered. "What if we don't just defend our partnership? What if we demonstrate that collaborative models work so well that other firms want to adopt them?" The idea that emerged from that meeting was ambitious and risky. Instead of simply fighting Hartwell's legal challenge, the Rivera family companies would create a formal alliance of independent construction firms that could compete with large corporations while maintaining their individual identities. Marcus spent the next month reaching out to construction company owners across the region, many of whom were facing similar pressures from corporate consolidation. The response was more enthusiastic than he had expected. "We've been watching what you and your family accomplished," said Diana Foster, owner of Foster Electrical Contractors. "The collaborative approach you developed allows smaller firms to compete for projects that we could never handle individually." The alliance that formed included 12 independent construction companies, each with specialized capabilities that complemented the others. Marcus found himself in the unexpected role of coordinating a network that could bid on projects rivaling anything Hartwell Construction could offer. But the real test came when the city, under pressure from Hartwell's legal challenge, announced that it was reopening the Riverside Innovation District project to competitive bidding. Both the Rivera Family Partnership and Hartwell Construction would have the opportunity to submit new proposals. "This is our chance to prove that our model isn't just about family collaboration," Marcus told the alliance members during their planning meeting. "It's about creating better outcomes for clients through specialized expertise and shared resources." The new proposal that emerged was more sophisticated than anything Marcus had previously developed. The alliance could offer capabilities that neither Hartwell nor any single firm could match. Sustainable building expertise from Mr. Construction Solutions, traditional construction excellence from Rivera and Sons, specialized electrical and plumbing systems from alliance partners, and project management coordination that ensured seamless integration between all components. But Hartwell's proposal carried the weight of corporate resources and established relationships. Their bid was lower than the alliance proposal, and their presentation emphasized the simplicity of working with a single large contractor rather than coordinating multiple firms. The city council deliberation took 6 weeks. during which Marcus found himself defending not just his own business, but the entire concept of collaborative competition. The hearings became a public forum about the future of the regional construction industry. Quote, "The question isn't just about this project," Marcus testified before the city council. "It's about whether we want a construction industry dominated by a few large corporations, or one where innovation and specialization can thrive through collaboration between independent firms." Hartwell's representatives argued that their size and resources provided stability and accountability that smaller firms couldn't match. "Mr. Rivera's alliance is an interesting experiment," said Hartwell's regional director, "but when you're spending taxpayer money on a $25 million project, you need the security that comes with an established corporate partner." The decision, when it came, surprised everyone involved. The city council awarded the project to the Rivera Alliance, but with conditions that would test their collaborative model more thoroughly than any previous project. "We're awarding this contract because we believe innovation comes from challenging traditional approaches," announced Mayor Patricia Rodriguez. "But we're also requiring monthly progress reviews and performance benchmarks that will demonstrate whether this collaborative model can deliver on its promises." The Riverside Innovation District project became a showcase for everything the alliance represented. Each firm contributed their specialized expertise while maintaining coordination through digital project management systems that Marcus had developed. The result was construction that was both efficient and innovative, meeting aggressive timelines while exceeding quality expectations. But the project's success created new challenges for Marcus personally. His role had evolved from running a single construction company to coordinating a regional alliance, which required skills and time commitments he hadn't anticipated. "You're spreading yourself too thin," Sophia warned him during one of their regular coffee meetings. "Mr. Construction Solutions was your baby, but now you're spending more time managing the alliance than running your own company." She was right. Marcus had promoted his operations manager, Lisa Chen, no relation to Patricia, to handle day-to-day operations at Mr. Construction Solutions, while he focused on alliance coordination. But he was beginning to feel disconnected from the hands-on construction work that had originally inspired him to start his own company. The situation became more complex when Marcus received an offer that forced him to reconsider his priorities entirely. A venture capital firm that specialized in construction technology investments approached him with a proposal to acquire Mr. Construction Solutions for $12 million and fund a national expansion of the alliance model. "We've been following your work for 2 years," explained Sarah Kim, the venture capital firm's managing partner. "The collaborative alliance model you've developed could revolutionize how construction projects are managed nationwide. We want to help you scale it across multiple markets." The offer was financially attractive and professionally validating. But it would also require Marcus to step away from hands-on construction work entirely and focus on business development and alliance management at a national level. Marcus spent sleepless nights weighing the decision, torn between the excitement of building something with national impact and his love for the actual work of construction. The decision became even more complicated when he learned that Hartwell Construction was planning to acquire several alliance member companies, potentially undermining the collaborative model before it could be fully proven. "They're targeting our electrical and plumbing partners," Antonio reported during an emergency alliance meeting. "Hartwell is offering purchase prices that are hard to refuse, especially for owners who are nearing retirement." The threat was strategic and sophisticated. If Hartwell could acquire key alliance members, they would gain access to the collaborative model's methods, while simultaneously destroying its foundation. Marcus realized that the alliance needed to evolve again to survive. During a series of intensive meetings with alliance members, they developed what they called the ownership cooperative model, a structure that would allow member companies to maintain independence while sharing equity in larger projects. "Instead of each firm just contributing services, we become co-owners in the projects we build together," Marcus explained to the alliance members. "Hartwell can't acquire us if we're all invested in each other's success." The cooperative model required significant legal and financial restructuring, but it also created something unprecedented in the construction industry: a network of independent firms that shared both risks and rewards, while maintaining their individual specializations. The first test of the cooperative model came when they bid on a $40 million hospital expansion project that would be the largest undertaking any of them had ever attempted. The project required coordination between 8 different firms and would take 3 years to complete. But the cooperative model worked better than Marcus had anticipated. Shared ownership created unprecedented levels of coordination and quality control, as each firm had direct financial incentives to ensure that every other firm's work met the highest standards. The hospital project's success attracted national attention to the Rivera Alliance model. Marcus found himself invited to speak at construction industry conferences and business schools about collaborative competition and the cooperative ownership structure. "What we've proven," he told audiences, "is that you don't have to choose between specialization and scale. Independent firms can compete with corporate giants by combining their expertise, while maintaining the flexibility and innovation that comes with smaller organizations." But the speaking engagements and consulting opportunities were pulling Marcus further away from the hands-on work he loved. The success he had achieved by leaving his family's business was creating new pressures to abandon the construction work that had inspired him in the first place. The tension came to a head when Marcus received a call from his father that changed everything. "Marcus, I need to talk to you about something important," Eduardo said, his voice carrying an unusual mix of excitement and concern. "Rivera & Sons has been offered a contract that could be the biggest opportunity in our company's history, but I don't think we can handle it without the alliance." The opportunity was a $60 million mixed-use development that would reshape the city's downtown area. The project included residential towers, commercial spaces, office buildings, and public areas that would require every capability the alliance had developed. "But here's the thing," Eduardo continued. "The client specifically requested that you be the lead project manager for the entire development. They want the person who created the alliance model to oversee its biggest test." Marcus felt a surge of excitement that reminded him why he had started his own company in the first place. This wasn't about managing an abstract business model, it was about building something significant that would improve people's lives while proving that collaborative approaches could tackle projects that individual firms couldn't handle. "Dad, I'll do it on one condition. I want to return to hands-on project management, which means stepping back from day-to-day alliance coordination and focusing on what I do best." The decision to refocus on project management rather than business development meant turning down the venture capital offer and several lucrative consulting opportunities. But it also meant returning to the work that had originally motivated Marcus to leave Rivera & Sons. The downtown development project became the alliance's masterpiece. Over 36 months, Marcus coordinated the work of 12 firms while maintaining direct involvement in design decisions, quality control, and client relationships. The project showcased everything the cooperative model could achieve: efficiency, innovation, and quality that exceeded what any single firm could have delivered. But perhaps more importantly, the project demonstrated that success didn't require abandoning your core values or fundamental interests. Marcus had proven that he could build a business that was both financially successful and personally fulfilling. When the downtown development was completed, Marcus stood on the roof of the main residential tower, looking out over a cityscape that had been transformed by projects his companies had built. The view included the municipal complex that had been Mr. Construction Solutions' first major success, the Westfield Commons that had marked the beginning of collaboration with Rivera & Sons, and now the downtown development that represented the alliance model's full potential. Sophia joined him on the roof, bringing coffee and a congratulatory smile. "So, little brother, do you ever regret leaving the family business?" Marcus considered the question seriously. In the 7 years since leaving Rivera & Sons, he had built a company that generated more revenue than his family's business, created a collaborative model that was being studied nationwide, and established himself as a leader in sustainable construction practices. But he had also repaired and strengthened his relationships with his family, created opportunities for dozens of other business owners, and proven that innovation and tradition could coexist successfully. "I don't regret leaving," he said finally, "but I'm grateful that leaving eventually brought me back, not as an employee trying to change a family business from within, but as a partner who could contribute something new while respecting what already existed." The alliance that Marcus had created continued to evolve, adding new members and taking on increasingly complex projects. Mr. Construction Solutions remained his primary focus, but it was now part of a larger ecosystem that demonstrated how individual success could create collective opportunities. 2 years later, Marcus received a call that brought his journey full circle. Hartwell Construction, which had spent years trying to undermine the alliance model, was facing financial difficulties due to overexpansion and corporate debt. Their regional operations were being sold, and the buyer was interested in incorporating Hartwell's assets into the cooperative alliance structure. "It's ironic," Antonio observed during the family meeting where they discussed the potential acquisition. "The company that tried to destroy our collaborative model now wants to be rescued by it." The acquisition of Hartwell's regional assets would make the alliance the largest construction organization in the region, with combined annual revenue exceeding $150 million. But Marcus was careful to ensure that the acquisition didn't undermine the principles that had made the alliance successful. "We're not buying Hartwell to become like them," he explained to the alliance members. "We're integrating their assets to prove that cooperative models can scale without losing their collaborative foundation." The integration process took 18 months and required restructuring Hartwell's operations to fit the alliance's cooperative ownership model. But the result was a construction network that could compete nationally while maintaining the innovation and flexibility that came from independent member firms. As Marcus entered his fourth decade, he reflected on the journey that had taken him from a frustrated family business employee to a leader in collaborative construction. The young man who had been blocked from Rivera and Sons had not only outsold his family's business, but had created a new model for how construction companies could work together. "You know what I'm most proud of?" he told Eduardo during one of their regular father-son meetings. "It's not that Mr. Construction Solutions outsold Rivera and Sons. It's that both companies are more successful now than either could have been alone." Eduardo nodded approvingly. "When you left to start your own company, I thought you were rejecting everything we had built. But you actually found a way to honor it while building something new." The office where they met was in the Alliance's new headquarters, a building that had been designed and constructed entirely by Alliance member firms. The structure showcased sustainable building practices, innovative technology integration, and traditional construction excellence, a physical representation of what could be achieved when specialization and collaboration worked together. Marcus had proven that sometimes the best way to contribute to a family legacy is to step outside it long enough to gain the perspective and skills needed to strengthen it. His success hadn't come from defeating his family's business, but from creating something that made his family's business better. The young man who had been told he didn't understand the construction business was now teaching industry leaders nationwide how construction companies could thrive through collaboration rather than competition. And the family that had once blocked him from their business was now his closest partner in building something neither could have achieved alone. As Marcus looked out the window of the Alliance headquarters at the dozens of buildings his companies had constructed across the city, he realized that his greatest achievement wasn't the revenue figures or industry recognition. It was the proof that individual success and family harmony, innovation and tradition, competition and collaboration could all coexist when approached with the right vision and patience. The construction industry would never be the same, and neither would the Rivera family. Both had been transformed by a young man's refusal to accept that being blocked from existing opportunities meant he couldn't create better ones. 5 years after the Hartwell acquisition, Marcus faced a challenge that would test everything he had built in ways he never anticipated. The construction industry was being disrupted by artificial intelligence, robotics, and 3D printing technologies that threatened to make traditional construction methods obsolete. The first warning came during a routine project review meeting when Lisa Chen, who had become Mr. Construction Solutions' chief operating officer, presented data that made Marcus's stomach sink. "We're seeing significant cost pressures from competitors using automated construction systems," she reported to the Alliance leadership team. 3 major projects we bid on in the past month were awarded to firms using robotic assembly systems that can complete foundation work 60% faster than traditional methods. Marcus studied the competitive analysis with growing concern. The construction industry was experiencing the same technological disruption that had transformed manufacturing 2 decades earlier. Companies that embraced automation were gaining significant cost and speed advantages, while traditional builders were being priced out of major projects. "What's our response strategy?" asked Diana Foster, whose electrical contracting firm had been part of the Alliance since its founding. "That's what we need to figure out," Marcus replied, though privately he was grappling with questions that went beyond business strategy. The collaborative model he had spent a decade building was based on skilled human workers and specialized expertise. If robots could perform most construction tasks more efficiently than humans, what happened to the independent firms and family businesses that formed the alliance's foundation? The challenge became personal when Marcus received a call from his nephew, Diego Rivera, who had just graduated from MIT with a degree in robotics engineering. Diego was Antonio's son, and Marcus had watched him grow up expecting to join the family construction business after college. "Uncle Marcus, I need to talk to you about something," Diego said during a visit to the Alliance headquarters. "I've been offered a position with TechBuild Systems. They're developing autonomous construction robots, and they want me to help design systems specifically for commercial building applications." Marcus felt a chill of recognition. TechBuild Systems was the company that had been underbidding Alliance projects, using automated construction methods. Diego's expertise could help them become even more competitive against traditional builders. Erivo Saikans. "What does your father think about this opportunity?" Marcus asked carefully. Diego's expression grew troubled. "That's the problem. Dad thinks I should join Rivera and Sons and learn the traditional construction business. But Uncle Marcus, the industry is changing so fast that traditional methods might not exist in 10 years. I want to be part of building the future, not preserving the past." The conversation reminded Marcus uncomfortably of his own departure from Rivera and Sons 15 years earlier. Diego was facing the same choice between family expectations and personal vision, but the stakes were different. If he joined TechBuild, he wouldn't just be competing with the family business. He would be helping to develop technology that could make family businesses obsolete. That evening, Marcus called an emergency meeting with his father and Antonio to discuss the technological threats facing the Alliance. "We can't ignore what's happening," he told them. "Automated construction is becoming viable for major projects, and if we don't adapt, we'll be left behind, just like manufacturers who refused to modernize in the 1990s. Eduardo, now 73 and semi-retired from day-to-day operations, listened with the perspective of someone who had survived multiple industry transformations. "Every generation thinks the new technology will eliminate the need for human skill and experience. But buildings still need to be designed for human use, and construction still requires problem-solving that machines can't handle." Antonio was more concerned about immediate competitive pressures. "The question is whether we try to compete with automated systems or find ways to work alongside them." Marcus had been wrestling with the same question, but his business school training suggested a third option. What if we don't just adapt to the technology? What if we help shape how it's developed and implemented? The strategy that emerged from weeks of planning was both risky and innovative. Instead of competing against automation or simply adopting existing systems, the Alliance would partner with technology companies to develop construction robots designed specifically for collaborative work with human crews. The current automated systems are designed to replace human workers entirely, Marcus explained to potential technology partners. "But our research shows that the most efficient construction combines automated systems for repetitive tasks with human expertise for complex problem-solving and quality control." The proposal attracted interest from several tech companies, but the most promising partnership came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had offered to acquire Mr. Construction Solutions 5 years earlier, was now heading a new venture fund focused on construction technology. "Marcus, your timing is perfect," she said during their reunion meeting. "We've been looking for construction partners who understand how to integrate new technology without losing the expertise and quality control that human workers provide." The partnership that developed over the following months created something unprecedented in the construction industry: robots designed to work alongside human crews rather than replace them. The automated systems handled repetitive tasks like material transport and basic assembly, while human workers focused on quality control, problem-solving, and complex construction techniques. But implementing the new technology required significant changes throughout the Alliance. Workers needed training to operate alongside robots, project managers had to learn new coordination systems, and clients needed education about the benefits of hybrid human-robot construction teams. "We're basically rebuilding our entire operational model," Lisa Chen observed during one of the implementation planning meetings. "The question is whether our member firms can adapt quickly enough to stay competitive." The answer came sooner than expected when the Alliance was invited to bid on a $100 million university campus expansion that specifically requested innovative construction approaches. The project would be a test case for hybrid human-robot construction, with results that would influence future technology adoption across the industry. Marcus decided to make the university project a showcase for everything the Alliance had learned about combining tradition and innovation. Rivera and Sons would handle residential and traditional building components using proven methods. Mr. Construction Solutions would oversee technology integration and sustainable building practices, and other Alliance members would contribute their specializations while learning to work with automated systems. But the project also required Marcus to confront the generational transition that he had been avoiding. Diego's expertise in robotics was essential for successful implementation, which meant convincing him to work with the Alliance rather than for their competitors. "Diego," Marcus said during a family dinner that felt deliberately reminiscent of the gathering where he had been blocked from Rivera and Sons' leadership, "I have a proposition for you. Instead of joining TechBuild or Rivera and Sons, what if you helped create something entirely new?" The proposal he outlined was ambitious. Diego would become the Alliance's Director of Technology Integration, responsible for developing and implementing automated construction systems designed specifically for the collaborative model. "You'd be pioneering a new approach to construction technology," Marcus explained. "Not just robots that replace human workers, but systems that make human expertise more effective and efficient." Diego's response was cautious but interested. "What about Dad's expectations that I join Rivera and Sons?" Antonio, who had been quietly listening to the conversation, surprised everyone with his answer. "Diego, your uncle taught me something important when he left to start his own company. Sometimes the best way to serve your family is to bring new capabilities to it, rather than just maintaining what already exists." The university campus project became a proving ground for the Alliance's hybrid construction model. Over 18 months, Marcus coordinated the work of human crews and automated systems, while Diego developed new applications for construction robotics that were more sophisticated than anything TechBuild had created. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. The project was completed 20% faster than traditional methods, while maintaining higher quality standards and actually creating more jobs than conventional construction approaches. "The robots handle the dangerous and repetitive work," Marcus explained to industry journalists who covered the project's completion, "which allows our human workers to focus on the skilled tasks that machines can't perform. The result is construction that's both more efficient and more innovative." The success of the university project attracted national attention to the Alliance's hybrid construction model. Other construction firms across the country began requesting partnerships and licensing agreements for the technology systems Diego had developed. But the success also created new pressures and opportunities that forced Marcus to make difficult decisions about the future of his business and his role in the industry. "Marcus, we've been watching your work with great interest," said Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who had become the dean of the university's business school. "We'd like to offer you a position as a professor of practice, focusing on collaborative business models and technology integration in traditional industries." The academic offer was personally appealing to Marcus, who had always enjoyed the theoretical aspects of business strategy. But it would require stepping back from hands-on construction management to focus on teaching and research. Simultaneously, Marcus received an offer from a major international construction corporation that wanted to acquire the entire Alliance and scale the hybrid construction model globally. "The collaborative approach you've developed could revolutionize construction practices worldwide," explained the corporation's CEO during a video conference. "We're prepared to offer $200 million for the Alliance and its technology systems, with significant additional compensation for your leadership team." The acquisition offer would provide financial security for every Alliance member and the opportunity to implement their model at global scale. But it would also mean losing the independent character and local focus that had made the Alliance successful. Marcus found himself facing the same type of choice that had defined his career: accept an opportunity that offered security and conventional success, or maintain independence while pursuing his vision for how business should operate. The decision process was complicated by family considerations. Eduardo was approaching retirement and needed to know that Rivera and Sons would remain viable for future generations. Antonio had become a strong supporter of the Alliance model but worried about losing local control to international corporate management. Diego was eager to expand his technology work but uncertain about whether corporate resources or independent innovation would better serve his goals. "What do you think Mom and Dad would want us to do?" Sophia asked during one of the family planning sessions. Marcus considered the question carefully. His parents had built Rivera and Sons by focusing on quality work and community relationships, rather than rapid expansion or maximum profits. The values that had guided their success suggested maintaining independence and local focus rather than pursuing global scale. I think they'd want us to make the choice that allows us to keep doing good work for people we care about, he replied finally. The decision that emerged from weeks of family and alliance discussions was characteristically innovative. Instead of accepting either the academic position or the corporate acquisition, Marcus proposed creating something new, a cooperative university program that would allow him to teach and conduct research while maintaining active involvement in construction projects. We'll partner with the university to create the first construction innovation lab, he explained to the alliance members. Students will work on real projects with our crews, developing new technologies and methods while contributing to actual construction work. The Construction Innovation Lab became a model for industry-academia collaboration that attracted attention from universities and construction firms across the country. Students gained hands-on experience with cutting-edge construction technology, while alliance projects benefited from access to research resources and emerging innovations. But perhaps most importantly, the lab provided a way for Marcus to combine his love of construction work with his growing interest in teaching and mentoring the next generation of industry leaders. Diego became the lab's first research director, developing construction robotics applications that were more sophisticated than anything available commercially. His work attracted top engineering students who were excited about applying artificial intelligence and automation to an industry that had been slow to embrace technological innovation. What we're proving, Diego explained to visitors touring the lab, is that technology doesn't have to eliminate human jobs. It can make human work more interesting, safer, and more creative. The lab's first major project was a collaborative effort with the city to design and build affordable housing using automated construction systems that reduced costs while maintaining high-quality standards. The project demonstrated that advanced technology could be used to address social problems rather than just maximize profits. As Marcus entered his mid-40s, he reflected on the journey that had taken him from a frustrated family business employee to a leader in collaborative construction and technology integration. The alliance he had created now included 37 member firms across 4 states, with combined annual revenue exceeding $400 million. But the metrics that mattered most to Marcus weren't financial. The alliance had created over 1,200 jobs, completed projects that improved communities across the region, and demonstrated that business success could be achieved through collaboration rather than competition. You know what I'm most proud of? He told Eduardo during one of their regular grandfather-grandson project visits. Eduardo had become deeply involved with Diego's technology development work. It's not just that we proved family businesses could compete with corporations. It's that we showed how tradition and innovation can strengthen each other instead of being in conflict. Eduardo nodded approvingly while watching Diego explain robotic assembly systems to a group of engineering students. When you left Rivera and Sons, I thought you were abandoning everything we had built, but you actually found ways to make it stronger and more sustainable for future generations. The conversation was interrupted by a call from Patricia Chen, who had become the alliance's primary client liaison. Marcus, I have news that I think you'll find interesting. TechBuild Systems is facing financial difficulties, and they're looking for a buyer. Are you interested in acquiring their technology and intellectual property? The irony wasn't lost on Marcus that the company which had threatened to make traditional construction obsolete was now seeking rescue from the collaborative model it had tried to disrupt. But the potential acquisition raised important questions about how large the alliance should become and whether growth should continue to be a priority. Let's talk about it, Marcus replied. But first, I want to make sure we understand what we'd be acquiring and whether it aligns with our values and goals. The due diligence process revealed that TechBuild's financial problems stemmed from their focus on replacing human workers rather than augmenting human capabilities. Their technology was sophisticated, but their business model had failed to account for the complexity and variability that characterized real-world construction projects. Their robots are impressive, Diego reported after reviewing TechBuild systems, but they're designed for controlled factory environments, not the dynamic conditions of actual construction sites. We'd need to completely redesign their systems to work with our collaborative approach. Marcus realized that acquiring TechBuild would provide an opportunity to demonstrate that technology companies could succeed by enhancing human capabilities rather than replacing them. But it would also require significant investment and restructuring that could distract from the Alliance's core mission. The decision to acquire TechBuild's assets came down to a simple question. Could the Alliance improve the technology while maintaining its commitment to collaborative construction and worker empowerment? "We're not buying TechBuild to become like them," Marcus explained to the Alliance members during the acquisition vote. "We're acquiring their technology to prove that automation can serve human workers rather than replacing them." The acquisition was approved unanimously, with the understanding that TechBuild's technology would be redesigned according to the Alliance's collaborative principles and integrated into the Construction Innovation Lab's research and development programs. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the renovated TechBuild facility, which had been transformed into an expanded Construction Innovation Lab. The space buzzed with activity as students, Alliance workers, and technology developers collaborated on projects that none of them could have completed independently. "This is what the future of construction looks like," he told a group of industry leaders who had come to tour the facility. "Not humans versus machines, but humans and machines working together to build better communities." The young man who had been blocked from his family's construction business had not only outsold them but had created a new model for how entire industries could evolve. His success had come not from defeating competitors or abandoning tradition, but from finding ways to honor the past while building toward a better future. As Marcus watched Diego demonstrate the latest collaborative robotics systems to a group of excited engineering students, he realized that his greatest achievement wasn't the businesses he had built or the technology he had developed. It was the proof that individual vision and family values, innovation and tradition, competition and collaboration could all be combined to create something better than any of them could achieve alone. The construction industry would never be the same, and neither would the definition of what it meant to succeed in business while staying true to your values and relationships. 10 years later, Marcus received a phone call that would force him to confront the ultimate test of everything he had built. The caller was Dr. Maria Santos, director of the United Nations Sustainable Development Initiative, and her proposal would challenge the Alliance to operate on a scale that seemed impossible. "Mr. Rivera, we've been following your collaborative construction model for several years," Dr. Santos explained during their initial video conference. "The UN is launching a global initiative to build sustainable housing for climate refugees, and we believe your approach might be the only way to achieve the scale and speed we need." The numbers were staggering. Climate change was displacing millions of people annually, creating a housing crisis that traditional construction methods couldn't address quickly enough or affordably enough to matter. The UN estimated that 50 million people would need new housing over the next decade, requiring construction capabilities that no single company or country possessed. "We're talking about building entirely new cities in some cases," Dr. Santos continued. "The traditional approach of hiring large multinational construction corporations has proven too slow and expensive. We need something more innovative, more collaborative." Marcus listened with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The Alliance had grown to include over 200 member firms across 15 countries, but international disaster relief construction would require capabilities and coordination far beyond anything they had previously attempted. "Dr. Santos, I appreciate the confidence, but what you're describing would require resources and expertise that we've never assembled before." "That's exactly why we're interested in your model," she replied. "Traditional contractors try to control every aspect of massive projects, which creates bottlenecks and inefficiencies. Your Alliance approach of coordinating specialized firms could potentially move much faster while maintaining quality standards." The proposal sparked intense discussions within the Alliance leadership. The potential impact was enormous: housing for millions of displaced people, but the risks were equally significant. Failure on such a visible international stage could destroy the reputation and collaborative relationships that had taken 2 decades to build. "This could be the ultimate test of whether our model can scale to address global challenges," Diego observed during one of the planning meetings. Now 32 and recognized as a leading expert in collaborative construction technology, he had become Marcus's de facto successor as the Alliance's strategic visionary. "Or it could be the project that proves we've grown beyond our capabilities," cautioned Lisa Chen, whose operational expertise had kept the Alliance functioning as it expanded across multiple countries. Marcus found himself grappling with questions that went beyond business strategy. At 51, he had achieved more than he had ever imagined when he left Rivera and Sons. The alliance was profitable, innovative, and had proved that collaborative models could compete with traditional corporate approaches. Did he really want to risk everything on a project that might be too ambitious for any organization to handle successfully? The decision was complicated by family considerations that reminded Marcus of his original journey. Eduardo, now 81, was battling health issues that made him increasingly dependent on family support. Antonio had taken over full leadership of Rivera and Sons but was also serving as the alliance's regional coordinator for traditional construction projects. Sofia had joined the alliance's board of directors while managing her own architectural firm that specialized in sustainable community design. "Dad's been asking when you're going to slow down and spend more time with family," Sofia mentioned during one of their regular coffee meetings. "He's proud of what you've built, but he worries that you're so focused on the next challenge that you're missing the present moment." The conversation forced Marcus to confront a truth he had been avoiding. His success had come from constantly pushing toward bigger challenges and greater impact, but that drive was also keeping him from fully enjoying the relationships and achievements he had already built. "Maybe it's time to let the next generation take the lead," he admitted to Sofia. "Diego understands the technology better than I do, and Lisa knows the operational details better than anyone. Perhaps my role should be supporting them, rather than driving every major decision." But before Marcus could make any decisions about his future involvement, the alliance faced a crisis that tested everything they had built. A massive earthquake in Southeast Asia created an immediate need for emergency housing for 100,000 displaced people, and the UN asked the alliance to coordinate the international relief construction effort. "This isn't the long-term sustainable development project we were discussing," Dr. Santos explained during an emergency video conference. "This is immediate disaster relief that needs to begin within weeks." Marcus looked around the conference room at the alliance leaders who had become his closest collaborators over the past decade. They had built something unprecedented, a network of independent firms that could coordinate complex projects across multiple countries while maintaining their individual identities and expertise. "Can we do it?" he asked the group. Diego was the first to respond. "The technology systems are ready. We've been developing modular construction approaches that could work for emergency housing. The question is whether we can coordinate logistics and supply chains quickly enough." Lisa Chen was already pulling up organizational charts on her laptop. "We have member firms in 12 countries that could contribute to this project. If we treat it like our hybrid construction model, robots for speed, humans for quality control and problem solving, we might be able to deliver housing faster than traditional disaster relief approaches." The decision to accept the emergency relief project was made unanimously, but with the understanding that success would require every capability the alliance had developed over 2 decades of collaborative construction. What followed was the most intense 6 months in the alliance's history. Marcus found himself coordinating construction efforts across 4 countries, managing supply chains that included both traditional building materials and cutting-edge modular housing systems, and working with local governments, international aid organizations, and thousands of construction workers who spoke dozens of different languages. But the emergency project also demonstrated something remarkable about the collaborative model they had built. When coordinated effectively, the combination of specialized expertise, advanced technology, and local knowledge could achieve results that no single organization could match. "We're not just building housing," Diego observed as they watched families move into completed units that had been constructed in 1/4 of the time traditional methods would have required. "We're proving that international cooperation can work when it's based on shared expertise rather than competing for contracts." The success of the emergency relief project attracted global attention to the alliance model and led to the formal partnership with the UN that Dr. Santos had originally proposed. But it also forced Marcus to make the leadership transition he had been considering. "I want to step back from day-to-day operations and focus on mentoring and strategic guidance," he announced to the alliance membership during their annual meeting. Diego will become the alliance's chief operating officer, Lisa will become chief executive officer, and I'll transition to chairman emeritus. The transition wasn't just about Marcus's desire to spend more time with family, it was recognition that the alliance had grown beyond what any single person could effectively manage. The collaborative model required collaborative leadership, with different people contributing their specialized expertise to overall coordination. But Marcus's reduced role also allowed him to pursue projects that had always interested him but had been pushed aside by urgent business demands. He began writing a book about collaborative business models, taught graduate courses at 3 universities, and worked with other industries that were interested in adapting alliance approaches to their own challenges. Most importantly, he was able to spend time with Eduardo during his final years, having conversations about family, business, and legacy that had been postponed too long. "You know what I'm most grateful for?" Eduardo said during one of their regular visits to the construction sites where Rivera and Sons crews were working alongside alliance partners. "It's not just that you proved family businesses could succeed in the modern world. It's that you found a way to make success about building something bigger than any one family or company." Eduardo passed away peacefully at age 83, surrounded by 4 generations of Rivera family members and several alliance colleagues who had become like family over the years. His funeral was attended by over 500 people, including construction workers, business leaders, and community members, whose lives had been touched by the companies he had built and the values he had instilled. "Abuelo would be proud of what we've accomplished," Diego said during the memorial service. "But I think he'd be even more proud that we've done it without losing sight of why we build things, to make life better for the people who live and work in the communities we serve." The Global Sustainable Housing Initiative that the Alliance was now coordinating had housed over 2 million people in its first 3 years of operation. The model was being adapted by other industries, healthcare, education, disaster relief, that needed to coordinate complex international projects while maintaining local accountability and expertise. But for Marcus, the most meaningful measure of success was watching his nephew Diego lead alliance meetings with the same combination of technical expertise and collaborative spirit that had defined the organization from its beginning. "You know what I've learned from watching Uncle Marcus?" Diego told a group of business students who were studying the alliance model. "Success isn't about proving you're better than other people. It's about finding ways to make everyone better at what they do." As Marcus entered his 60s, he reflected on the journey that had taken him from a frustrated family business employee to a recognized leader in collaborative entrepreneurship. The young man who had been blocked from Rivera and Sons had created something that exceeded anything the original family business could have achieved. But perhaps more importantly, he had proved that individual success and collective prosperity, innovation and tradition, competition and collaboration, could all be combined to create business models that served broader purposes than just profit maximization. The alliance continued to evolve under new leadership, taking on challenges that Marcus had never imagined when he first started Mr. Construction Solutions in his small apartment 25 years earlier. They were building cities for climate refugees, developing technologies that made construction safer and more sustainable, and training the next generation of builders who understood that collaboration was a competitive advantage rather than a compromise. "The best part about stepping back from daily operations," Marcus told Sophia during one of their coffee meetings, "is getting to watch what happens when you create something that doesn't depend on you to keep growing and improving." Sophia smiled, remembering their conversation decades earlier when Marcus had first left Rivera and Sons. "Do you ever regret not trying harder to change the family business from within?" Marcus considered the question, looking out the window at the skyline that included dozens of buildings constructed by Alliance member firms. "I think some changes can only happen when you step outside existing systems long enough to gain the perspective needed to build better ones. If I had stayed at Rivera and Sons, I might have been able to make incremental improvements. But I never could have created something that helped transform an entire industry." The final validation of Marcus's approach came when he received an invitation that brought his journey full circle. Harvard Business School, where he had earned his MBA 30 years earlier, invited him to deliver the commencement address for their graduating class. Standing at the podium where he had once sat as a student, wondering how to apply business theories to real-world challenges, Marcus looked out at 900 young people who were about to enter careers in a world shaped by collaborative technologies and global challenges that required cooperative solutions. "When I left my family's business to start my own company," he began, "people told me I was making a mistake. They said competition was too fierce, relationships were too important, and change was too risky for someone without connections or resources." He paused, remembering his own uncertainty and determination as a young entrepreneur. "What I learned is that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking risks. Sometimes the most practical thing you can do is follow your vision for how things could be better, even when that vision requires building something that doesn't exist yet." Marcus concluded his address with advice that reflected everything he had learned about business, family, and social impact. Don't just ask what success looks like for you. Ask what success looks like for everyone whose lives your work will touch. The most sustainable success is the kind that creates opportunities for others to succeed as well. After the ceremony, Marcus returned to his hometown for a family dinner that included 4 generations of Riveras and several Alliance colleagues who had become part of the extended family. The gathering was held in the community center that had been built by Rivera and Sons and Mr. Construction Solutions working together, a physical symbol of how individual vision and family tradition could strengthen each other. As he looked around the table at faces that represented both his past and his future, Marcus realized that his greatest achievement wasn't the business empire he had built or the industry recognition he had received. It was the proof that being blocked from existing opportunities didn't mean you couldn't create better ones. The young man who had been told he couldn't understand the family business had gone on to redefine what family business could mean in a connected, collaborative world. And in doing so, he had shown that sometimes the best way to honor a legacy is to build something new alongside it. The Rivera family name was now associated not just with quality construction, but with innovative approaches to collaboration that were being studied and adopted around the world. And that legacy would continue long after Marcus stepped away from active leadership, carried forward by the next generation of builders who understood that success was measured not just by what you built, but by what you enabled others to build as well. In the end, Marcus had proved that the most revolutionary act in business might be the simple decision to create value for others while staying true to your own vision of what's possible. The family that had once blocked him from their business was now proud to be part of something much larger than any of them could have built alone. 20 years later, Marcus stood in the memorial garden that had been built behind the Rivera Family Construction Alliance headquarters, reading the inscription on the bronze plaque dedicated to his father. Eduardo Rivera, builder of dreams, father of innovation, founder of legacy. At 71, Marcus moved more slowly than he once had, but his eyes still held the same intensity that had driven him to leave his family's business 5 decades earlier. The garden was filled with representatives from all 37 countries, where Alliance member firms now operated, gathered to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Global Sustainable Housing Initiative that had housed over 15 million people. Diego, now 52 and the Alliance's international director, approached with a tablet displaying real-time data from construction projects around the world. "Uncle Marcus, I thought you'd want to see this. We just completed our 100,000th housing unit this morning. A family in Bangladesh is moving into a home built using technology that started in your small apartment in 1998. Marcus smiled, remembering the young man who had typed his resignation letter on a laptop while eating ramen noodles, and wondering if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Your grandfather would have been amazed to see construction workers in Bangladesh using techniques developed by a company that started because his son was too stubborn to accept limitations. The anniversary celebration included a surprise that Marcus hadn't anticipated. Antonio's granddaughter, Elena Rivera, now 25 and fresh from completing her doctorate in sustainable engineering, approached the podium to make an announcement. 5 years ago, I wrote my dissertation on collaborative business models, using my great-uncle's alliance as the primary case study, she began, her voice carrying the same quiet confidence that had characterized Marcus's early presentations. Today, I'm announcing the launch of the Rivera Institute for Collaborative Innovation, a research center that will study how the alliance model can be adapted to address climate change, global poverty, and other challenges that require coordinated international action. Marcus felt tears in his eyes as he realized that the legacy he had built was evolving into something even more ambitious than he had ever imagined. The young woman announcing the institute bore the Rivera name, but she was proposing to apply collaborative principles to challenges that transcended any single industry or family. After the celebration, Marcus walked through the headquarters building, stopping at the wall of photographs that documented the alliance's history. The images told the story of a transformation that had begun with one frustrated young man and had grown into a global movement. There was the photo of his first project completion, standing proudly next to a small office building that had seemed impossibly ambitious at the time. Pictures of family dinners where business planning mixed with personal celebration. Images of construction sites on 6 continents where Alliance crews worked alongside local partners. Portraits of the thousands of people who had found careers, homes, and opportunities through the network that had started with Marcus's determination to prove that collaboration could be more powerful than competition. Sophia, now 68 and the Alliance's director emeritus, joined him at the photo wall. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Dad had made you a partner in Rivera and Sons from the beginning? Marcus considered the question that had occurred to him many times over the years. I think I would have been successful in a conventional sense. Rivera and Sons would have grown, modernized, maybe become a regional leader. But I don't think we ever would have discovered what was possible when you stop trying to control everything and start trying to enable everything. He pointed to a recent photograph showing construction crews from 12 different countries working together on a disaster relief project. That only happened because I learned to build something bigger than what any single family or company could achieve alone. As evening approached, Marcus made his way to the modest office he maintained on the top floor of the building. The space was decorated with mementos from 5 decades of construction projects, but the most prominent feature was the large window that looked out over the city skyline. From his chair, Marcus could see dozens of buildings that Alliance firms had constructed over the years. The municipal complex that had been his first major victory, the university campus where Diego had developed collaborative robotics, the affordable housing developments that had provided homes for thousands of families, the new high-rise that served as headquarters for 3 international nonprofits focused on sustainable development. But the view that meant the most to him was the modest brick building 3 blocks away where Rivera and Sons still operated. The company had thrived under Antonio's leadership, specializing in residential construction and historic renovation projects that honored traditional building methods while incorporating modern efficiency improvements. The 2 companies, Rivera and Sons, and the global alliance that had grown from Mr. Construction Solutions, represented different approaches to the same fundamental values: quality work, community service, and the belief that building things well was a form of service to future generations. Marcus's reflection was interrupted by a video call from Dr. Maria Santos, who was now 75 and serving as the UN's senior advisor on sustainable development. Her call had become a monthly tradition, reviewing the progress of housing initiatives around the world. Marcus, I wanted to share some data that I think will interest you, she said, her face appearing on the large monitor. Our economists have calculated that the Alliance model has created approximately 2.3 million jobs worldwide over the past 25 years. But more importantly, the collaborative approach has reduced construction costs for affordable housing by an average of 35%, while improving quality standards. Those are remarkable numbers, Maria. But what matters most to me is the 15 million people who have homes because we learned to work together instead of just competing with each other. After the call ended, Marcus opened the drawer of his desk and pulled out a worn folder containing documents he hadn't looked at in years. His original business plan for Mr. Construction Solutions, the resignation letter he had submitted to Rivera and Sons, and a handwritten note from his father that he had discovered among Eduardo's papers after his death. The note, dated just a month after Marcus had left the family business, read, "Me, Joe, I don't understand what you're trying to build, but I can see the determination in your eyes that reminds me of when I first started Rivera and Sons. Maybe you're right that there are opportunities I can't see. I hope you prove me wrong about the risks and right about the possibilities." Reading his father's words after all these years, Marcus understood that Eduardo had always supported his son's ambitions, even when he couldn't understand them. The resistance and skepticism had come from love and concern, not from any desire to limit Marcus's potential. As the sun set over the city, Marcus began writing in the journal he had maintained throughout his career, a practice that had started as business planning and had evolved into philosophical reflection about the relationship between individual success and collective prosperity. He paused, looking out at the skyline filled with buildings his alliance had constructed, then wrote the final entry. Today I understand what Dad meant when he said business was about building something that lasts. I thought he was talking about Rivera and Sons, but he was talking about legacy. The young man who left home angry about being blocked from the family business learned that sometimes the greatest gift your family can give you is the motivation to build something bigger than what already exists. Marcus closed the journal, stood up from his desk, and walked toward the door. The boy who had been told he couldn't understand the family business had spent 50 years proving that understanding business meant understanding how individual dreams could become collective realities. Behind him, the lights of the Global Alliance headquarters continued to glow, coordinating construction projects on 6 continents. Ahead of him, his family was waiting for dinner, proud of the man who had turned rejection into revolution and competition into collaboration. The family that had once laughed when he left home now understood that he hadn't just built a more successful business, he had built a better way of doing business. And that legacy would continue long after Marcus Rivera's final sunset, carried forward by millions of people whose lives had been improved because one stubborn young man refused to accept that being blocked from existing opportunities meant he couldn't create unlimited new ones. The end.